hear a lot of people online talking about hunting from the ground without a blind, especially around run and gun hunting. But a lot of folks don't know where to start. I'm actually out doing a little bit of late season scouting for food sources today, so I figure while I'm out, I'm gonna look for some natural ground blinds that I might use, and in fact may use myself this season. So let's get started. Okay folks, I'm doing a little midday scouting, trying to get a few videos in for the channel. Talking about a couple things here, but I just walked up on a spot that I want to share with everybody, and I see a lot of people asking about hunting on the ground using natural cover without a blind, without bringing in a blind. The spot I'm standing at, I've never hunted before. I don't even know if I've ever walked through it on this property, but as soon as I walked up on it, I was really excited, and I will hunt this again before the end of the season. Now, I don't know if it's a morning spot or an afternoon spot yet. I'm leaning towards it that could actually be both, and I'll explain that real quickly. I'm just above the area that I talked about in another video where I was showing some late season food sources, privet and honeysuckle. There's a creek down below me. This is on a bit of a ridge, so it's coming to a ridge and it heads down to a point and then heads back down to that creek. So that makes me think they may be coming through here in the mornings headed back to bedding, because I know there's some bedding areas back here behind me, and even off to over to my left. During the summer there's a lot of bedding over there because it's a thick kudzu. If you're not from the south, you may not know what kudzu is, but there's a huge area of kudzu, and I know they feed in that a lot during the summer. But because it's on this ridge, there's a bit of a transition area here because it's open, small but scrub hardwoods on my right, and on the left it's a stand of pines, pretty mature, not overly large. So you've got a transition line, you've got this ridge that heads down to a point. I know I've got water and a food source, and I know I've got a bedding source. Now I'm gonna turn the camera around here real quick. I'm gonna try to get down here almost to ground level. But right up through here's the trail, if my finger's not completely blocking everything. And it's been used for many years because it's worn down. It's still seeing a lot of use. I'm seeing fresh tracks, fresh depressions in the leaves, so I know they're still using it. And even if I bring the camera around on this side, you can probably see the same thing. We've got this little cedar here, and right to the right of that cedar you can see this depression that goes right up through there. And I've walked this a little bit, and this trail runs a long ways. In fact, I'm gonna continue to follow it. Camera turn back around here. So to get to the point I'm trying to make, what do you look for as far as natural cover? And that can be as simple as a large tree that you can use. But in this situation, I've got a dandy of a setup. I'm gonna get the camera turned around here and I'm gonna show you what that looks like. Again, if you're looking at this little cedar, keep in mind that that's the trail that I'm on is running right past that. I'm almost sure it's not gonna show up right now. But if I come around here, check this out. What I've got here is the top of an oak, or maybe even a full oak has fallen, or maybe it's a pine. I need to get over and look at it real closely. But bottom line is it's brought down at least some large limbs of an oak. It's still got a lot of leaf coverage on it, and this will last it'll probably last a couple of years. But then behind that growth, I've got this pretty good sized oak that's still there, which is going to give me a really good backdrop. Now, some people might come in here and just set up right in the front of this stuff. You will hear things like what's behind you is more important than what's in front of you. And I think that is to a degree true, but what I have found is anything that you can put in the front of you that breaks up your outline while still having something solid behind you, you're much better off. And in this situation, I've got the best of both worlds. Now, what I'm going to try to do, and I'm going to do this now so it's got time to rest a bit before I hunt it. We are supposed to have rain this week, so I feel like I can get into a little bit, and maybe the rain's going to wash my scent out. But I'm going to clear out a spot right behind that thickest. See if I can get my hand in here so I can kind of show you what I'm talking about. This thickest cover right here, if I can get my finger right there, that's where I want to be behind. And if you can look through that, you can see that tree that's still standing is behind that. That's going to be my backdrop. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in there and I'm going to clear out enough limbs that I've got a way to shoot both from if the deer, let me think through this. So I'm probably going to be hunting this on a west wind, which is going to be blowing towards my natural cover here. I think the deer could either come from north heading south or south headed north. Depending on which time of day it is, I want to be able to shoot both directions and use this same blind as long as I've got a west wind or a west to northwest wind. So I'm gonna clear enough out that gives me an opportunity to take a shot from the blind over this way, which would mean the deer were traveling from south to north, and give me a quartering away shot just before they got out of my sight window. And then I'm gonna clear enough out that I might have to shift a little bit, but I think I can actually create a little pocket in there where I could actually shoot if the deer are headed from south to north, which would most likely be in the afternoon. But either way, as long as I'm still right when the animal is moving past me, they're never gonna know I'm there. And then once they're on that slight quartering away, I'm gonna be able to draw without being detected at all. Should be able to get in a shot pretty easily. Now this is a very similar setup to a natural blind like this I found a couple of years ago, where I took a buck using a self bow, primitive bow, and it was very similar to this. Had a very solid trail, knew there was bedding on one end, knew there was food source on the other, and just happened to, in that situation, had a tree lapse from a select cut operation that went through on that property. So anyway, I'm gonna turn the camera off and we'll get in here and do a little cleaning up and get my blind set up, and then I've got another type of cover that I use for ground blinds that I'll show you here coming up in a little bit. All right, folks, got another example of the type of things I look for to hunt from the ground without a blind, using just natural cover. And we'll kind of show you what I would be hunting here, and then we'll talk about it from a blind or a hide perspective. So I'm gonna bring the camera around here and show you. This is a privet thicket, and I mean it's a big one. This is a great late season food source. We've talked about this very privet thicket in another video. Check out the late season food source and late season scouting video, but it's a very thick patch of privet honeysuckle. I know the deer are going to be using it, and on the other side we've got a very thick stand of switch cane, river cane. Again, predominant in the South. Can't speak about other states, but this stuff is thick. But what you can see is it creates a very thick canopy, lots of dark shadows. And I'm gonna look around here a little bit and try to figure out where there's some good trails feeding into this privet. But what I do is I'll actually go in and I'll cut shooting lanes in this switch cane, but not open it up so much that I don't have a lot of the material still in front of me to break up my outline. And then I will try to find one of these trees, and you see there's a lot of pines in here. I'll clear out around one of these trees, and I'll typically use my hammock seat in here. So I'll get my back up against one of those trees. I've got something behind me to break up my outline. I've got this thick switch cane in front of me to break up my outline from the front. And again, you just have to cut a few shooting lanes, and you have to be patient. And typically I like to set up to where I'm gonna have shooting lanes that should offer me quartering away shots. That will give me the opportunity to draw while the animal is not in a position to see directly to his or her left or right, meaning there's less chance they're going to pick me out. But this is fantastic. It's unusual to see river cane like this on high ground, which this is, but I'll take it. And I'm not sure if I'll actually get to hunt this year or not, but it will definitely be something that I will save in my hunting and scouting log for next year. I'm pretty sure I could take a deer in here. Might take a few sits, but this is a nice setup. So again, this gives you kind of an example of late season food sources, but also as another type of cover that you can use for ground blinds. And really, it doesn't have to be this river cane. It can be anything that's that thick. If you've got a clear cut or an edge of a clear cut that's thick like this, crawl up in it, cut you a section out to hunt from where you won't make noise, leave enough cover in front of you, and just cut some shoot lanes out of it. A lot of people tend to overthink this, and it's not all that hard, but it's a lot better to be back in stuff like this where you've got the shade, the shadows to break up your outline, than it is to try to find something that's in sunlight like you might have inside of thick stuff like this. If you decide to give this a try, good luck to you. And if you've got similar type cover in your area, leave a comment below. We'd love to hear about it. All right, folks, I'm gonna give you one last example. Not every place that you find is going to be perfect. but that doesn't mean you can't dress it up and make it what you want it to be. That is best done during the late winter to early spring, as best you can when you can. But I'm gonna give you an example here real quick. I'm gonna turn the camera around and show you a couple things. So I hunted this area this year a little bit. In fact, I've still got a stand that you can probably see right there. It's a bit out in the open now. It was much better covered earlier in the year when there was foliage on everything. But what I've got here is I've got a ridge that runs up this way. It comes down to a point here, and it's pretty thick. I've also got another stand back probably about 150, 200 yards this way that really hunts this same ridge, but really more for really early in the season. But I came down here, walked this ridge earlier in the year this year, and found a lot of buck sign. There's a lot of rubs. In fact, there's a rub right there. I don't know if it'll show up on video. There's a pretty heavy trail that runs right down through here, heading down towards there's a creek down there. Most of the activity that I saw from this stand was coming down this ridge and then feeding down into the creek. Now, and I saw this early in the year, and right now it's late and a lot of stuff has died and fallen off, but you can see this little thicket right here, and it's not much, but with a little work it could be enough. Again, you're looking to break up your silhouette. There's a couple of trees in here, but like this, I don't know if you can see that one tree that's going off to the side here, and then there's another little tree kind of right behind that. That's where I think I'm going to try to set up and use my hammock seat. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come in here this spring after things have greened up a little bit, and I'm gonna see just how thick this is, and that's when I'm gonna try to do a little work in here. Now you can see everywhere I pan around in here, there's nothing but small trees. So I think in a couple of hours, what I can do is come in here and cut my shooting lanes. So that's the first thing I'll do, is cut my shooting lanes. But then I'm just gonna go around and I'm gonna cut some of these smaller trees, and I'm gonna brush this area in where I'm going to set, mainly to give me some cover behind me. Because where I'm going to be shooting, if I'm sitting, you know, somewhere in this area, I'm gonna be shooting out that way, I'm gonna be shooting out this way, and I potentially could be shooting directly towards where the camera's looking now. So I want to build enough cover that I'm gonna be able to blend in with that background, and depending on how much this stuff thickens up, I may actually even put some additional cover in there to thicken this up. Now this one again is a little sparse, and I might even, once I see what it looks like in the spring, I may even go as far back as this little split tree right back here. That's going to give me even more cover and definitely break up my background a little bit more. But I got to step some things off, see what my distances are, and see how much stuff I'm shooting through, because it doesn't do a lot of good if I'm in there and I can't make the shot. But this is another example, and now is the time of year to be getting some of those ideas, so that come spring you can get out here and do what you need to do to make this huntable, and then give the area plenty of time to calm down. This is a natural travel corridor. Nothing's going to change it unless you just booger it up from being in here too close to the season and running things out. So this is a job that I'll probably be doing while everybody else is out chasing turkeys, but turkeys aren't for me. So I think this is going to be the last one for now. I may do some of these videos later in the year, especially in the spring when I start brushing some of this stuff up. But for now, I think this is going to do it. Just keep these areas in mind as you're out scouting in the spring, as you're turkey hunting. I know a lot of deer hunters turkey hunt, and that's a great time to be identifying these areas, because you can get them prepped, you can get them ready, and still have plenty of time before the opener of season. I mean, even here in the South, our season opens in September, but it gives you several months that you're not messing these areas up. So look for some more of these, maybe come the spring when I can get out and do some of what I'm talking about here, and maybe you'll even see this spot again. But until then, get out there and try it. You're not going to learn what you need to do to get away with hunting on the ground until you get out and try. Good luck, everyone. Talk to you soon.